ठीक है ओके
Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the second DED Education Grand Round. This was an initiative we have started so that we can address very common issues that faculty have, and we can continuously give some faculty development all throughout, right? And hopefully we'll be doing this every couple of months. We had our first Education Grand Round and was taken very well by the people who attended. And that has given us encouragement to continue forward. And hopefully we will be addressing issues in teaching and learning, in curriculum, in assessment, and we'll be getting people from abroad, hopefully, to come and give talks as well. Okay. Our topic for today is lectures and how they can be made more interesting from the simple didactic, passive learning activity that we may have at one time been exposed to during our career, our learning, our education, right? So with it, I'd like to introduce my speaker, Dr. Kausar.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad to see, mashallah, a number of people sitting here. So do I have to speak in this one? In this one. I can close this? Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So the topic is, I think, interesting, and that's why it has got the attention of most of the faculty that I know. I have been asked to first have a disclosure statement. That's very important to have. I don't have any commercial or financial interest associated with this lecture or anything that I speak during this lecture. I am not proposing you to buy anything wherein I don't have any interest in it. Okay. So the basic objectives that we have of this session are very simple, because I've been told by Azam that I am not supposed to go beyond half an hour. I need to finish within the 30 minutes that have been allotted to me. So we'll revisit some of the basic premise about education and lectures that we all know about. We will look at some current techniques that are being used to engage students and try to see their applicability in our situation. We are also going to review a use of a new technology, which is simulation technology in education during lectures. We know of simulation technology for skills teaching, but we are also going to now see how simulation technology is a relatively newer thing. And of course, we're going to explore some free learning resources for preparing of interactive lectures. Is that okay? If you have any further objectives, please let me know, and we will try to add it at the end of the session if there are any burning things that needs to be addressed. So first of all, some common premise that we have about that we know about education and lectures. We all have been in the business of education for quite some time now, and we are familiar with at least this main goal, that one of the major goals of education is to make critical thinkers, and that holds very high position in AKU. All of us are all the time saying it's there in our mission statement that we want to develop critical thinkers. And we as teachers, how do we develop critical thinkers? We all know that it is only possible if the student actively engages amongst themselves and with the content. Otherwise, critical thinking is something that has to be learned by engaging with the material that the student is being provided with. We also know that teachers have been trying to engage and develop a habit of critical thinking in their students by means of asking them to write, read, ask questions, or solve problems. That's what we all have been doing, and that's what the literature tells us. And of course, giving feedback on the work that has been done by them is also a way of enticing and stimulating critical thinking, asking them questions about it. Now coming to lectures, right? There's nothing wrong in it. We all are familiar with this traditional. It started from the time of Socrates. It is still here. It is going to stay with us. And of course, it has a lot of value in it. But the main thing that we know about lecture is that the onus of lecturing rests with the lecturer. It is the lecturer who identifies what I have to communicate to the student and how. Of course, we have objectives to guide our lecturer, but still the content, what has to be learned is the domain of the learner who discerns, distills, and delivers. I really love these three words, and I've written them as I found in the literature. Discerns, distills, and delivers. That's what the lecturer does, with a hope that students are taking notes and they're going to remember something that has been taught. So this is that we all are aware of with respect to that. Now thinking about a lecture. So what are the things that are required in a lecture? It requires a group of motivated learners. And as you can see, even in this picture, which is of the medieval century, we have more girls than men over there. So that's what is happening now also. We have a very enthusiastic, energetic, and dedicated lecturer. We have a load of content that we need to cover. And of course, a wonderful environment and a well-lit auditorium where we are going to deliver the lecture. So these are the essential things. Now, when we are trying to look at how to improve lectures or how to make lectures more interesting, then we have to look at each component within it, right? Let's look at the first component, the most important component, right? Because he is the one or she is the one who will discern, distill, and deliver. So think about a good lecturer that you knew, the one that you remember till date. For a second, close your eyes and think, what is it that makes you remember him today when I asked you to remember a good lecturer? I want each one of you to do that. Just think and note it down in your own notebooks or hearts or minds, wherever. And I'll share with you some input that I have gotten from the various people of whom I've taken lectures, sessions, and the input that they have given, I'm going to show it to you. And if there's anything that I've missed over here, I will ask you to add that, and I will add it over here with Azam helping me in noting it down at the moment, right? So they say that content expertise is one. I remember the lecturer who knew his content inside out. You know, whatever question I asked him or her, knew it, right? And used a variety of strategies, had the knack and could switch from one strategy to the other strategy. Could talk, could move to a PowerPoint, could draw on a blackboard, could use multimodal strategies looking at what is the need of the student and what is the need of the subject. So do not stick to one methodology. They say they also remembered lecturers who had good manners. They were polite people, not very rude. Generally, we don't learn a lot from people who are very rude. So they had command over control over their voice. They could raise it, they could lower it, to emphasize, to de-emphasize, and so to keep you awake. Sometimes they had to shout just to keep us awake. But anyway, they had control over their voice. They had control over their tone. They didn't talk in monotony. I'm sorry, monotonous speakers put us to sleep. So that's what they said. The people who could vary their tone during a lecture. People who used a language that was understandable to the audience that was listening to them. So they didn't use very high-fly words, which, I mean, we usually, when we were students, we used to have visiting lecturers who were amazing content experts, who had amazing delivery skills. Whatever they taught us, whatever they told, it went above our heads because we weren't familiar with the terms that they were using. So although the lectures were very, very, very valuable, but they were less so valuable for us. So language, very important. Of course, appearances. You have to look attractive, but not so much as to distract the student from the learning. So there has to be a careful balance around it. So gestures certainly don't stand as a lamppost, nor move like a pendulum. So you need to, the lecturers that they remember were people who could use their gestures very balanced manner and in a planned manner. A lot of planning also goes in how or what gestures. And of course, who were able to feel the student that they are connected. They're connected, you know, it's not like they're they're sitting in a vacuum and the students, they don't know what the students are doing. And last but not the least, those who are able to click with the student, develop a rapport with the student. Now, who has anything more than that? Yes, please. Thank you. I was hoping someone would come up with that. Thank you. G.
Make most difficult things very, very.
Okay. So we have found two more things at least. Enthusiasm and passion that needs to be there. And the second, a person who can make things understandable. Simplify. Yes. Okay. So creating a relevance. Thank you. Interactive. Yes, a person who connects with the students and is able to make. So you remember a person who made the lecture interactive, who made you a part of the learning process, right? Okay. So Azam has noted all of these down and they'll go up in my slide for the next time if I ever am to deliver this lecture. Oh, you do, Zara? Hmm. Okay. Okay, agreed. A person who is able to use humor judiciously, right? Thank you. Okay, so content. We all know about content, right? 5 years undergraduate, 5 years postgraduate, and they say 40, 45 years of practice, maybe more, inshallah, but on an average, right? So what do we know about content? They say that half of it, what we learned in undergraduate years, becomes obsolete when we are like middle way into practicing. So how much of it is going to stay with us? It is very important for us to remember that point as lecturers. And to add upon it, we have these free lectures available on the net. Thousands of lectures on every topic you can think of is available for the medical students to use. When the YouTube was not working, it was a very great problem. But now YouTube is open again. So all of this is available on YouTube. Students can sit in their bed, sipping a cup of hot coffee or tea or an ice cold drink in this weather and play, replay, stop, rewind, look up literature, again listen to the lecture, and their learning gets more and more reinforced. So the content is now available in the form of umpteen medical lectures on the free website, which is YouTube. Next, we come to the students. These students, they don't come to attend our lectures. They are disrespectful. They don't listen to us. Do we see our roles changing? Do we see our roles changing? Our students have changed. Our students have access to things that we did not have a couple of years back. So what is it that we need to do as lecturers to engage the students? Because for making them critical thinkers, we need to engage them with the content as well as with each other. So what do we do? What I want you all to do is, I want you to take 30 seconds and think of one thing you have done in your lectures to deal with these issues. What one thing you have done? Write it down. I'm sure you have done many things. Just think of one. 30 seconds, okay? Awesome. Now, I want you to share it with the person sitting next to you. So, anyone on your right or on your left, it doesn't matter. Explain what you did and what was the, okay, you look to your left. आप दोनों आपस में बात नहीं करते? तुमने तो बहुत कुछ किया है. Azam की घड़ी थोड़ी. Azam's watch is, I think, doing a little fast, but he's telling me 1 minute is over. Okay, so now, how many people have talked about these things? How many of you talked about these things? Transparencies, slides, and PowerPoints. None of the above. Why? Because when you're using transparencies, when you're using slides, and when you're using PowerPoint, although PowerPoint makes you feel as if you're doing something very good, but it is still information transfer. And the students are passive learners. So PowerPoint does not mean that we are doing lectures which are interactive. They may be more colorful, they may be more interesting, but not. Agreed. So we need to use everything very judiciously. So we've been trying to get more creative. How many of you use question and answers? How many of you talked about question? Are you dari nahi? Okay, so I see a relatively larger number of people who've been using question and answers in their sessions. Quizzes. Has anybody tried to? There, you've used quiz shows. Excellent. So we are doing that. And how many of you have done this? Progressive mind mapping. Okay, I see relatively less hands, but yes, people have been trying to do it. Mind mapping. Yes. All our lectures consist of number of segments. For 40 minutes, we don't talk on one topic, okay? We are talking about different segments of a topic. At the end of each segment, you try to ask the student to write down, distill some of the points that they have learned. And when students are doing that exercise, they are remembering, they are interacting with the content that you communicated to them. To make it much more interesting, you can ask them to share, pair, think, pair, share. To discuss it with the others and then draw it. So that makes it very interesting and it makes the memory good. It goes into the long-term memory. And of course, in medicine. How many of you have used case-based meds? I'm sure. All of you. So you see, we have been doing these things, not uniformly, maybe. We have been doing this thing. I don't know if we have been assessing the impact of these exercises that we've been putting in. This is the time to show evidence. What we are doing as an institution, let's institutionalize these things and make them evident that Aga Khan University is moving ahead in trying to engage its student more and more and changing the lecture methodology. And I've been told that BBS has clickers. Do you use clickers? Some people use clickers? Yes. Yes, there are various apps, but the value of clickers is still there. I know. Yes. 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 Okay. So I'm a person who still thinks clickers are amazing because they give you much more. They let the students answer, but they give you a little more than that. So increasing use of technology is there, and we have this individual response technology, audio response system, or in layperson's language, clickers that we use. And clickers used with the buzz groups are turning to be amazing learning strategies in developing critical thinkers, in improving critical thinking of our students. Then, of course, we have the flipped classrooms. How many of you had talked about flipped classrooms, tried flipped classrooms? Amazing. Nursing is always on the forefront. And of course, who else than sociologists? Moving right ahead, right? So, flipped classrooms, with the advent of technology, with the presence of podcast and broadcast, and the facilities of developing podcast and broadcast, there is lecture capture followed by projects. So these things are now used. So we are using it, some people are using it, and they can become champions in training others to do that. So we as an institution can move ahead in using flipped classroom as a major strategy. Everybody's worried lectures are not working. Try using flipped classroom. Maybe Jackie, those who have been using it can give a presentation on effect of flipped classroom on students' learning. Okay, great, awesome. And this thing is PhET Sim. It's a simulation technology, relatively new, relatively localized, not used a lot in medicine. At least I couldn't find any use of it when I was searching for it. I would like to introduce this new thing to you because I feel that Aga Khan University, with the intelligent human resource that we have over here, coupled with the technology resource, can do wonders in this field. If University of Colorado can do it, why can't Aga Khan University do it? I'm just going to give you a glimpse of that also. But first, my favorite. I want those of you who have not used clickers to just
sit here and rant and rave and complain that, oh, our standards are low and that students don't learn in high school what they used to. But the fact of the matter is I have 135 students there now, and I can't go back and change history as to what sort of high school education they received. They're here, they're paying their tuition money. As I tell them on the first day of class, I'm going to give you your money's worth.
So now we just try to observe how this gentleman has used clickers.
Which of the following is least easily explainable as a result of collision between galaxies? Has everyone answered? Interesting. Half of you think it's number 4. Some galaxies seem to be undergoing bursts of star formation, but not everyone agrees. So here's what I want you to do. Start talking about it. If you think you know the right answer, convince your classmate that you've got the right answer.
So 2 galaxies smash into each other. That's something pretty big. What's number 3?
Number 3? The goal in my class is for them to learn how to solve problems. You know, there's some people saying, oh, well, you're just, putting a happy face on the class, making it a circus or something that's fun. Well, I do subscribe to the Mary Poppins principle. A spoonful of sugar does help the medicine go down. But don't for a minute think that I have lowered the standards of my class or that I am not getting the students to think critically. Are we ready to try again? Let's see how many people changed their mind. And this time, the correct answer will be highlighted in red.
I changed mine at the last second. That's sweet.
At least more of you got to the right answer. Let me just give you a brief explanation.
Do you see the smile on the student's face when they change the answers, when they get involved with the content, when they discuss with each other? Do you think they were learning? Do you think they were learning more than? Now, clickers have again, as I said earlier, I don't have any commercial gains from it, but clickers, people have tried to use clickers a lot. They've tried to turn it into games, and this is a study that has been published, and look what they have done. They have identified, who were the people who gained maximum scores, the leaders, who was the one who gave fastest correct answers, who was the winner. So they have tried to change it into a sort of a game. And by game, we know that students get emotionally involved. And when we get emotionally involved, we learn more and more. So these are the principles of adult learning that we are revisiting over here. So gamified audio response system is again something that has been tried, and this is medicine, right? We all relate to what is being asked over here, germs and microbiology, etc. So this is medicine and people are doing it. Okay, then of course there are podcasts. There is a wealth of podcasts available on the net. We can subscribe to it. And these are not universities unknown. These are universities like Harvard. This is BMJ. there is Australian universities. So we have many universities who have developed repositories of podcasts. Do we have it? Do we have a repository of podcasts over here? Is it generally known to the faculty? Do they use it? I think we need to make it, maybe in the School of Nursing, but are we also using it in medicine? So, I mean, School of Nursing and School of Medicine are nearby. I think there is a lack of talk. We need to talk on pedagogy so that we learn from each other. And when we learn, we do new things. Try to do new things. And this is the last. It's the flipped classroom, as I talked to you about. In flipped classrooms, generally students receive exposure to the material first. They read it up in the form of readings, or they hear podcast or view vodcast, as Azam was correcting me, that when you listen, it's podcast, and when you view, it is vodcast, fine. And then, of course, what they did was they asked the students to come to the classroom. They gave them problems. They gave them exercises, and they asked, okay, now solve it. That's team-based learning. So two things that they are addressing over here. One is prior learning, coming and solving problems, and that also in teams. And we are all the time saying that doctors and healthcare professionals need to work in teams. So problem-based learning is one way of learning in teams, right? But this is a way of working in teams and solving problems in teams. And this was amazing because I know that when I'm working with the years 1 and year 2, and we are all the time saying that, there are too many lectures. There are too many lectures. And then we say we can't do away with lectures. But we know that lectures are not very effective in learning. The students don't come to the classroom. So what do we need to do to make our classrooms more attractive for the students? It is only possible if we try to do something with them. We try to do something. This is a very good article that's been published. And if you want to know what was the result and impact of all these changes, I urge you to go and read it up. Read it up and see for yourself what benefit it did to the learning of the students, because that is what we are looking at. And of course, this is what I was amazed to see. This is something that was developed by the University of Colorado. It's PHET, it's Physics Education with Technology. And over here, what they want the students to do is, they give the students a situation, they ask them to predict what's going to happen, then the students actually perform or see the experiment happening on simulation, and they see the responses, and then they reflect on it. What did they think, and why did this happen? And this is a little longish thing, but I thought it is important because I don't know how many of you are aware of it. It is being used for teaching physics, chemistry, biology, earth sciences. And when I read chemistry, in my mind it was biochemistry. When I read biology, in my mind it was physiology and pathology. It was medicine, it was nephrology. And I think there is amazing potential of us going on in this area and developing things that would be useful for our students learning.
That is a collection of over 100 interactive simulations for teaching and learning science.
You've got to connect the formula to real life. The easiest way to show the whole class, to make sure everyone can see, is to have a big PhET sim up on the screen.
Sometimes I use PhET just as a lecture demonstration, but I find it most effective to use it in conjunction with a question or an activity that actually is getting the students actively thinking about the science and the simulation.
One of the things that PhET allows that other things don't allow is when something spontaneously comes up in class, I can say, let's test it.
The whole point of PhET sim is that it shouldn't be a passive activity. They weren't designed to be watched by students.
I learned years ago that even though every faculty member I know loves good demos, the impact of demonstrations on student learning is almost always less than we would hope.
Like any lecture approach, you want to turn things over to the class as much as possible. You want to let the students ask the questions.
You want to somehow capture some of the interactivity inherent in the PhET sim by tying the PhET sim to a clicker question or some kind of in-class activity that the student's involved with intellectually.
One way we can get students to actually think about what they're seeing in the simulation is to partner the simulation with clicker questions and peer instruction. We ask students a challenging question and then have them turn to their partners to discuss.
So this is again something that, when I was looking at it, I tell you, I was thinking nephrology. I was thinking cardiology. I was thinking cardiac cycle. I was thinking glomerular filtration. And I said, you know, we can develop such simulations with the CINE around with us. We can. Now, just to tell you that there are some free resources that are available. And if the students are using free resources, why can't we? So there is how to use PowerPoints, how to animate PowerPoints, how to make excellent PowerPoint presentations, how to use clickers in the classroom to enhance learning. I flip, you flip, we all flip. So this is an amazing resource where they tell you how to develop podcasts and vodcasts. And of course, how to embed YouTube into PowerPoint. This is where I learned how to embed YouTube into PowerPoint. So this is something that we all can do. And I tell you, I only learned to do it for this lecture. I've never done it before. So this is amazing learning that takes place. So some reflections, last slide, some reflections. What are the things that you think, were you engaged in this presentation? How many of you think they were not engaged in this lecture? It's okay, I won't remember your names or faces, okay? Anonymous response system. Okay, so how many of you, okay, tell me, what were some of the activities that you were engaged in during these 30 minutes? Can you remember any? Videos, they caught you. There were visuals and there was auditory, okay? Think, pair, share. Relevance. Okay. So there were these, and not to say about my enthusiasm, you don't think I was enthusiastic? Oh my God. Okay. So these are some of the things that we did over here that hopefully will keep the learning there longer than if I would just have given a lecture on strategies to make effective lectures. So as lecturers, I think this is what the take-home message is for you all. Thank you very much. And there are these resources that are available. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kausar, for that interesting presentation. I think we all learned quite a bit from it. Now we're going to follow it up if there are any questions from the larger group here, or from those who have joined with us online. So we will have our panel discussion, and for our panel today, we have Dr. Kausar herself. From the School of Nursing, we have Dr. Jacqueline Dias. From BBS, we have Dr. Kulsum Tayas. And from medicine, we have Dr. Javed Khan.
जी, so yes, Bushra. एक mic Bushra को भी दे दें. हाँ.
I think so. People online can't hear.
Oh, okay. Dr. Bushra.
There's another.
अच्छा, Bushra. Okay.
How to bring about innovations, because as you see that there are so many teachers in the university, but the attendance here is, you can say it's not proportionate. So I feel that DED or whatever, they should be proactive in helping the teachers in developing interesting lectures. You said that the AV department can help us, but I don't know if they can produce some video tubes, YouTubes or something like video clips for us. I don't know if they can help us in that way and making our lecture more interesting the way we want to do it.
Thank you, Bushra. I think it's a very pertinent question. I'll leave the part about DED taking lead to Dr. Tariq to answer. But as far as having resources available at hand to help us do, I wasn't referring to the AV. I was referring to the CIME. In the CIME, we have IT experts who are there available. We need to really utilize their resources. And you know, if we give them ideas, they are sure to come up with something, and then together we can certainly go ahead and build it. That was my opinion.
So just in response to what DED can do, I think this is today's lecture is a part of it. It's the answer towards your question that through this education grand rounds, I think we need to see how DED can engage faculty in teaching and learning.
And I think one of the major role that DED can play is DED is FHS. And even I am unaware that the School of Nursing is using podcasts and podcasts. And I'm unaware that they are using flipped classroom. And I'm unaware, I came to know just today over here that BBS has clickers. And I'm sure what Zara was saying, that there is another software, but I don't know if that software could show, I mean, if it does, wonderful, then we need to increase the use of these, and these people could become champions, and DED needs to support them. That's exactly.
I just wanted to comment on the audio response system. I think university need to invest some money on the audio response system. If you look at our own Department of Medicine activities over the years, the attendance has considerably declined. We used to have very good attendance in our Monday morning grand round and Wednesday morning meeting, but now very few people come in. And I've seen over the years that audio response system, wherever you have audio response system, the attendance markedly increases. And I go to European Respiratory Society meeting, and there the attendance is maximum in sessions where there is audio response system. The person is teaching clinical cases through the audio response system, and it's an excellent way of learning. So I think we should introduce that in our setup also.
Thank you very much, Dr. Watson. I just wanted to ask that Jacqueline has just promised that next grand round will be on Flipchart and podcast. But what can be the mechanism by which we can enhance our collaboration with the School of Nursing? Because if we admit that there are few technologies in which you are ahead of us, there is no harm in asking your help to learn. So what can be the strategy?
Right.
How can we move on?
Sure. I think there are many ways that one can do it. I think there's some that are done exclusively at School of Nursing, and there's some that are done at the university level as well. Let me take the university first, and I'll come to the school later. At the university level, there's a blended learning program that's offered by Azra and her team in collaboration with the Teaching Learning Net and the blended learning. So I think that's an excellent. I think even today there was the circular that came out that people can register. So that is one way of going forward and learning. Because I think if you take Bushra, that, AV will help us, so nobody's going to help you. If you really want to move forward, you've got to learn the technology yourself. So it's like, learning how to make a vodcast or a podcast, you've got to do the hands-on. It's like, how you give an IV, you've got to learn, how many inches away, which the depth of the needle. So the same way, you've got to learn trial and error. And so we've learned that. If we've made, strides at School of Nursing, is that we've taken it upon ourselves to convert all our programs, and we've started with the postcard and BSN, we're moving into other programs. So we've taken a lead that yes, we will do it. So, there was the enthusiasm of the faculty, there was a supportive dean, as well as there were other things that, the measures. We had to have technology in place. You've got to, invest in an instructional designer. You've got to invest in technology. You've got to invest in a smart classroom, as you call it. You've got to invest in these resources, because you cannot say, yes, I'll do it, but if I don't have the infrastructure to support that. So I think that coming to the second part is we offer courses on blended learning and how to do these vodcasts and podcasts. So far, we've done it on many things, and I think we can open our invitation. And I see my dean smiling here, so I think I have her, her backing in this. Is that we open it to the general, not just limited to School of Nursing, because we offer a program that's 2 weeks long. I mean, and I'm, like you said, no conflict of interest, but it's there. I mean, our program is there. It's, 2 weeks long, but we teach you, and then you can develop it into the course. Another thing that we have been successful in our programs at School of Nursing is we've offered a mentorship program simultaneously. So those of us who learned, in 2011 and 2012, actually support the faculty as they come on board. And we don't say make changes all. It sometimes a course may take 3 years. Our post-RN BSN program has taken us 5 years to convert it totally from a didactic to a blended mode. And our success story is today our students can return back to their hometowns. Like we've got students who are from Syria who wanted to go back as soon as the conflict, arose in Syria, and they wanted to go back. So we said, you don't have to, stay here in Pakistan. You can go back and complete your program successfully. As long as you have the support, you have an internet. At that time, there was internet and things. So we've done that. A lot of our students are, so I think a lot depends on what we can offer. But I think having said that, our success stories are great. Sadia, who's joining us, I think, Sadia, are you still with us? Is Sadia with us still from Hyderabad? I mean, Sadia was one of our post-RN students who could not come to Karachi. That's the reason. Post-RN sitting in Hyderabad. This is our biggest success story of our program. So we've got a number of success stories that we've done. So I think it just doesn't benefit the faculty, it's benefited the students immensely.
So in the medical college for the undergraduate program, over the past year, and many of you sitting here might have been involved in it as participants, we did a vast needs assessment, because what we're talking about now is really incorporating technology as a way of engaging. And I think it started with Dr. Bushra correctly pointing out, these are digital natives who we're teaching. Most of us are considered digital immigrants, and there is a difference in how digital immigrants teach digital natives, and we have to adapt to that difference. And in the medical college, the results of this needs assessment, because we try to do it very methodically to inform curricular reform, to identify what resources are already present and what kind of support structures will be required to really bring it into place. So we're now in the stage, in fact, just before coming over, I saw that we've got a first draft and we're going to be presenting it in various fora. And this incorporates not just the students' take on it, the fact that 90+% actually have access to smartphones. We've got that kind of data. We also know that 80% of the time they actually use it for playing games and not related to education or on Facebook and stuff. But this is something that we should think about. I mean, it is then what they're using it for, is that what we should be adopting in a way to teach, right? So we've got all this information coming out, and I think the most heartening thing is not just, we knew that the students wanted it, right? Most of the faculty have come out saying they would want to do it. The only caveat, and it's come up before, is the support that the institution needs to provide as far as technologists and others who are trained to do this, and that kind of mentorship. So these are things that hopefully will inform decisions going forward. And for those of you who are interested in it, there should be exciting things coming up.
When I learned about FET, I tell you, I was really happy to learn about it. So when I learned about FET, I went to CIME, and I went to see the gentlemen, Numair and Hamza, who are there working in CIME. I showed them FET. I said, look down, isko dekho, see this video, see how you can do it. Do you have the technology to do it? We have these experts who can come to you, who can sit down and discuss with you. So usne kaha, haan, mujhe de de. I'm going to look at it. So, you know, if those of you who are interested in at least exploring the utility of this thing, and if we have the intelligence and the resources, why can't we go ahead and do it? So I thought this was an amazing breakthrough that we can look into. So yes, people are there. Just go and talk to them, call them over, and see how they can help. Anyone from the
Naveed, do you have any question?
No, we do not have any questions from the examination board. I have with me members from the teacher development team as well. And thank you for sharing the link. It was helpful for us to join and learn from the educational grand round today. Thank you, Devi.
Okay, you're welcome. Sadia, do you have any question?
No, I don't have any question. I'm sorry, Ms. Jackie, I was not able to answer when you called my name. I just want to share that I am a case study from School of Nursing. I have experienced the blended learning in its true essence, as I was able to join from Hyderabad and experience the blended learning, environment from my own area. So that's it. And thank you so much for sharing the link with me. I was able to attend the session with your facilitation. So thank you.
Thank you, Sadia. Okay, are there any more questions from for our panel?
Two questions. One, in the use of technology, Kausar, you may be aware of the way Rosalind presents data on population, whereby his one video says, in 2 minutes, I will cover 200 years of history. So when he was here at AKU, he came to CHS, we had a long meeting as to how we could use data in Pakistan with such presentation. And he said, you'll need three people. One, somebody who's interested. So I said, that's me. He said, somebody who is who knows the data well. I said, yeah, we've got biostatistician there, epidemiologist there, and somebody who's good in technology. So the third person we couldn't find. So that sort of slipped away. And so my question is, would CIME, would there be people to, because a lot of the stuff that Rosalind uses, he says it's freely available on the website. But actually making it, you can't just download the program. Everything has to be created. So one question is whether support in terms of how we present in this way. And my second question is about teaching animation. I use a lot of, or try to use animation in my work, but I'm restricted to those line drawings and the movements that are available. And I've been chasing it for nearly 2 years now, and I've got some reference. I was at a conference in South Africa where once somebody said, yes, you can learn it, and there are online courses. I haven't found them as yet, but whether those would be available to help faculty develop their own animations for presentation.
Right. I think at the university level, there's someone called Serene who works with the Teaching Learning Net and the Blended Learning Net. Our office is situated in IED, and they help faculty to do that kind of thing. So they have been trained. I think there's another gentleman, Raheel, as well, from also has a part-time with the IED as well as with the Blended Learning Net. So these are people who can actually help you, to do things like that. And we've often called upon them to ask them. So these resources are available. How widely advertised they are at the university, I don't know, but it's there. The resource does exist. So that I want. To answer the question for CIME, at the moment, we are in the process of training our IT people and sending them. So we have a staff development budget and they're being trained. So hopefully they'll be able to be geared. Because these are people who've been picked up and, come and they haven't really got any expert. They're learning it, on the job on the day-to-day basis. But we have some training. So hopefully at the next time we speak, we'll be able to say, yes, we have a further resource available.
And just quickly add to that, there is other things particularly that may be relevant more to the people teaching the basic sciences or the medical sciences. There's something known as Morpholio, which allows you to have pre-made animations as well as structures and stuff. I believe within BBS, and again, this isn't something that's widely circulated enough, there was a professor by the name of Anil Valji who used to come fairly regularly, and he gave a phenomenal professional development workshop slash exercise in which he showed how he makes structures that really could be out of Gray's Anatomy using just the line drawing feature of PowerPoint. Now, he, of course, has accumulated this expertise over many, many years, but really we were able to see how that can be applied. And I think that's the sort of thing that we should dig it up. I'm sure we have that video and we should make that freely circulated, maybe put it on a CIME website, that kind of stuff, so we can share that resource more widely.
Thank you. Thank you for this very interesting dialogue. I have only 2-3 points. My one is I think we should include IED in all discussions. They may not have relevant medical science, but they are our teaching learning expertise. And I think using them and taking them along with us so that we are all on the same page, them being part of the university is extremely important, because we may learn few things from them that help us. I think the other thing is many universities now have teaching learning labs actually. You see, it is, as Dr. Jacqueline said, that we do have experts, but those are kind of not formalized, and it's not fair that they have their 100% job plus helping us. So it's on ad hoc basis. I think DED should consider suggesting to the university to actually have a teaching learning laboratory where you could go there and the experts are sitting there, and you could have somebody pick up the help you do your class. In fact, there are 2-3 functions. One function for this lab also was that, you know, I don't know how much in the university, but I know that in School of Nursing we had started that our performance appraisal are also now centralized, so that there is a feedback system that is centralized. So if it is found that some teachers lack or need help in strengthening their teaching learning, then these labs actually support those kind of teachers to help them improve their skills and technology, so that in the next performance appraisal there is better results. So those are some of the things that now it's high time we claim ourselves to be a universal university. I think this is one thing we should really look at. The students will be supported because students do presentations and they need help sometimes, and so teachers. So we should really look at the teaching learning lab. Thank you.
Okay.
Different context, so in our context, most of the schools cannot access technology. So when I read the application part, it would be interesting to learn more about how can we contextualize application in non-technology environments also, so that we can cater to those also. I know there are many, but I would love to learn much more. Yeah. Thank you.
Using one way in which, just to answer this question, I think one way in which our teachers have been doing it without using technology gives us more to offer. Okay, so but good teachers were doing that even without technology. Okay, and we had these excellent teachers, very few, but we know them, right? So they were doing it, again, they were relating to us, they were involving us, they were engaging us, they were doing all these things in a non-technology environment, but it was that they were also, I remember those teachers, they were using cases, they were using scenarios, after teaching us, they were putting some case in front of us. Now the issue was over there, since technology was less, it was only the first two people sitting in the first 2 benches who could probably respond, and because we had a classroom of 350 students, so it was not possible for him or her to, but at least the first 2 and people who were interested used to sit in the first 2 rows, you know. So yes, they were using cases, they were using anecdotes, and that's the way in lectures they were involving us. So yes, we have had people doing that. There are some teachers who used to draw excellent colorful diagrams. I mean, and although we could not see everything from the back, but the way they used to draw the diagram of the heart and the way the blood flows from here to there. I mean, we used to read these books, physiology books, but it was so much nicely explained over there. And the third and the last thing is that those teachers did not just try to provide us with information. Yes, at that time, in the earlier time, in even getting information was something crucial, because it was not possible for everybody to get access to the journals or current textbooks available. There were very few, and only the class toppers used to grab them immediately, right? So those of us who were mediocre students always had to struggle. So yes, we sat through those lectures to get the information. But now, this is not the case. So we need to, even our students, when they go, even the students of the primary, I mean, our children have studied, my kids have graduated all now, but when they were learning, they used to come home and search the internet, work on projects, and take the projects back home. So even situations which are low tech, our groups bana de, everybody may not have a laptop, everybody may not have a computer, but within groups, they do a lot of group work. So I think it's just trying to stretch our mind. Thank you.
I'd like to add to that, Anil. If you see in low-tech situations, one of the things that you can do is educational storytelling. And there are resources and online courses for developing educational storytelling. Okay, I think that you might find pretty helpful.
Because a lot of my work has been with quote unquote teaching, but illiterate, semi-literate women, men who are from poor marginalized background. And there's a lot of material that has been developed to engage them for their learning. For instance, I use PRA tools where the entire analysis is done on the ground, using whatever resources they have to represent their ideas, and you prove those ideas. So I think, especially what was said, that if our schools are where we are working, I think community health sciences would have, or public health people would have those questions, where technology is not available. But I think if AKU can also, in some way, help develop all those other, for instance, Theatre of the Oppressed is used so magnificently, so effectively for engaging people for their learning. But I find that AKU sort of ignores this very large set of ways of learning, and whether they could also be some way absorbed and integrated into improving teaching and learning.
Okay, thank you.
Well, certainly the session you had today was excellent in that it for somebody who is just not into technology at all, was very revealing and interesting. And I can see that there are many different ways of, how shall I put it, transmitting information that are available now that weren't before. And I can understand that if all the information one needs is available, why would students come here and listen to someone who's taken a whole lot of stuff off the internet, put it onto a slide and then shown it, or has taken a photocopy of a book and read it out again in a monotone at that, invariably. And yes, there's absolutely no interest in that kind of thing. Just a little tale that I can tell you. This is 1980. And Dr. Shevis Smythe, who was first dean, he was the one who set up the whole place, actually, told the owner's representative board that you have an associate dean. I was a non-specific associate dean who has grown up in Britain. He knows nothing about America, and you are planning to set up an American-style institution. So he should come and see what goes on, what kind of education, how that's done. And of course, this is now at the University of Texas Medical School at Houston. And he'd introduced something called systems biology. Now, systems biology meant that students came into the class and they sat through lectures, anatomy, physiology, pathology, clinical, the works. And each lecturer came along with about 100 slides. And this thing went on for an hour, and then there was a little break, and then another hour, and so forth. And one chap turned up, and he was talking about electrocardiology. He gave a lot of information. And I could see the glazed look on the eyes of my neighbor. And, he talked about axis deviation. And at the end of this thing, I could see this girl just totally flummoxed by all of this. And I said, "Did you have difficulty in following that?" "No, I didn't understand a word," she says. So, well, it's not that complicated. I can explain all this to you in about 2 minutes. "Really?" she says. So within a minute, I explained to her, she said, "Is that all there is to this?" I said, "Yes, that's all there is to it." What was the difference? The difference was information, more and more information, and that, in fact, is the tragedy of today. There's a glut of information, and there's a bland assumption that all of that is useful, and all of that is real, and all of that is accurate. And what is more, the students have to prepare for examinations. And examinations, they have to show that they know that information. But when it comes to application, you realize that in fact, there isn't an understanding of it. There isn't an application, the ability to apply that knowledge. It is fact upon fact upon fact upon fact. And I see that as the challenge for faculty. How do you crystallize? How do you crystallize the important elements, the key elements, that knowledge that you must have? And by knowledge, I mean information that one really does understand. Because if you have that base, you can build on it. You can put in all the detail as and when it's necessary. And yes, of course it's necessary from time to time. But it's pointless having all the detail and not have a basic knowledge, basic understanding that you can actually apply in different situations. And that, I do not see how technology per se can allow that to happen, because that transition has to happen within an individual. And the challenge for the faculty is to facilitate an individual to understand. And looking back to the lecturers that I remember, they were absolutely outstanding. What made them outstanding? What made them outstanding was that, yes, you had the books, yes, you read all the stuff, and you may even have had lectures on them. You have seen, but in fact, at the end of it all, you say, I really haven't got a hang of this. I don't really fully understand that. And the excellent lecturer was able, within a very short time, to explain, and explain in a way that you grasped it. And once it was grasped, you always had it. And you recognized that when you try to teach somebody else, that they don't have that basic concept and they have no way around it. An example that I remember was the lesser sac of the peritoneum. That was was next to impossible to understand. Bits of embryology, there were all sorts, physiology, whatnot, and so on. At any rate, I'm sorry I've gone on at length, but that to me is a challenge, and I don't know how one can overcome that. So, but in many ways, we go back to the basic notion that that evaluation really does affect the way in which people learn, does affect what individuals learn. Not necessarily the way they learn, but what they learn. And if what you want is information, yes, the students will have information. If your assessment is different, somehow checking knowledge, concepts, which is not easy to do, then I think they may learn differently.
Thank you, Dr. Villani. Okay, with that, I'd like to thank our presenter, Dr. Kausar, our panelists, and of course, all of you for being here. And hopefully we'll see you next time in the next Education Grand Round. And of course, we'd like to thank our participants who are online.
Thank you, Sadia. I'm closing the session. Thanks.
Thank you.